Good afternoon, everybody. It's Ron back with Still Ticking with Ron. Another video today, making video number 2 for this channel. This one's going to be a little bit more on the difficult side than yesterday's. This is going to be an explanation on my injury and what happened that day back in September 2024 and the challenges that happened early on in my recovery. So take you back to a warm fall day in fall of September 20th, 2024. I was on my way up to Borden Air Force Base to do a survey for a customer who was moving from North Barrie back home to the west coast of Canada. Our company had an agreement with the government of Canada to move people who were retiring or being relocated with the Army between locations. So this gentleman, Frank, it was his last move in the Army and he was going home. So my role at the time was internal sales. So it wasn't something that I usually or ever did before, going to a customer's house by myself to do a survey. Now, I had been along on surveys before, and the point of a survey is basically you go to the customer's house, you take a look at what they're trying to move, and then you figure out a way to allocate the resources needed to do that move in a timely fashion and with significant or with the least amount of trouble that you possibly can. So that day I drove up to Barrie, past Barrie. It was a lovely drive. I remember the day was beautiful, but I wasn't feeling well in the morning, and I'd gone through some health issues back at this time. And I remember Diane, my fiance, said, "If you're not feeling well, don't go." And or I think she was, in addition to that, she was suggesting that she came along with me for the ride just to keep me company. Anyway, no problems with the ride. I got up to Frank's house and went in and introduced myself and proceeded to do the survey. So we started on the bottom floor and went through the kitchen, the living room, the dining area, a couple other places. Then we went upstairs to the second floor. Now, because this was a house on a base, it wasn't a large house. That's for sure. It was very tiny on its footprint. And the stairs were very steep, and the landing up on the second floor was very small. So we went through all the bedrooms. I think there were 3 bedrooms on the second floor, and there were some boxes up in the attic. Now, the attic was one of those ones where you pulled the staircase down, and the staircase extended till it got to the landing, and then you could climb up into the attic to see what was up there. So the gentleman pulled the stairs down, and the last thing I remember saying was, I can't go up there because there's no way I'm going to get my fat ass up those stairs into the attic. That was it. Don't remember anything else after that for the next few hours. Apparently I had taken a step backwards, and because of the small size of the landing, there was no space for me to take a step backwards, and I fell backwards down the stairs. The staircase is one of those L type of staircases with a landing, say maybe 10 steps down from the top. They say that when I fell backwards, I missed the first 8 steps altogether and landed flat with my neck against the bottom of the landing. And then apparently I was passed out for a while, or knocked out, and I recall the feeling of being on my back with my feet above my head, which would have been a very difficult position for me to get into, but apparently that was where I was. I was folded up quite eloquently, I guess, and at the bottom of the stairs, or at the bottom of the landing. I hadn't made the bottom of the stairs. So it's a good thing that that Frank was in the Army because he made his reactions helped out immensely. There was sorry, this is hard. There was ambulance services on the base that were there within 4 minutes, I'm told, and then a regular ambulance was called to take me to the nearest hospital, which ended up being in Alliston. I'm not sure why we went to Alliston instead of Barrie, but we were in Alliston, where I guess I had woken up, and I remember being flat on my back, but I don't remember not being able to move. I don't recall that. I remember being awake at that time, but I don't recall anything from that time other than conversations. So Scott, who was my boss, ended up getting a call saying that I had had an accident and I had fallen, and he called Diane, and him and Diane came up to Alliston to meet me at the hospital. So when I got to the hospital at Alliston, as I said, I don't remember not being able to move, but I remember discussions. I remember when the doctors were talking to me about, they couldn't really tell what was wrong because they're not set up as a trauma center. They're just the first place that I went to. So they were concerned about spinal injury, of course, but they didn't have the facilities to take a look other than an X-ray. I'm not sure if I got a CT scan or I know I didn't get an MRI there, but I'm not sure what else was provided there, just because I don't remember. I don't recall that. I remember them deciding that it was the best solution for me to get airlifted into Toronto, into Sunnybrook, because there were concerns about the spinal cord injury, concerns about whether or not that I would survive. And I remember Diane getting there, and I remember Scott there. I remember calling some people or having somebody call it. I don't remember how exactly I got a hold of them, or if Diane called them for me. I called my sister Heidi. I know I called my kids or left them a message. Also, I'm pretty sure I let Jeremy know, one of my best buddies. And I'm not sure who else at that point. Everything was just so new. There was no point. Yeah. So a couple of funny things, well, not funny things, happened during this time. I remember being asked things, and I'm not sure if this was at Alliston or at Sunnybrook where they airlifted me to, whether or not I wanted to sign a DNR, or do not resuscitate. And it's like, at that point I kind of figured this was a lot more serious than it was, because I wasn't sure what it was at this point. But they explained what the surgery was going to be. They asked me about a DNR, and I remember one thing that sticks out in my mind is I remember being wheeled away singing the John Denver song, "Take Me Home Country Road." Probably not the most eloquent use of my voice at that point, but I kind of found it fitting, because if this was going to be it, take me home. Well, Diane is never doesn't want to hear that song again, because it reminds her of a time that wasn't the greatest. So, all right, we'll move on. I don't want this video to be 400 minutes long. Yeah, we had the surgery. What ended up breaking is if your spine is 3 sections. You've got your C section, which is the top of your spine, the T section, which is the middle, and the other section, which Of course, I can't figure or can't remember what the letter is, but it works down that there's 3 sections of your spine. So the higher up your spine your injury is, the more chances you have of being permanently disabled. Or, so for example, if you're a C, it's going to affect your breathing. It's going to affect a lot more because it works its way down through the systems of your body. So C's are for your breathing, your brain activity, all the big ones are the C's. And as you get down into the T's, comes further down your body, affecting your arms, your bowels, your bladder, sexuality. As you get further down, obviously the injuries change. So if you have a high C, you've got up there plus everything else that follows down in your spine. I'm not sure that's the greatest explanation, but it's what came out in this video. So I had a C4, C5 down to T1, completely smashed, not just broken, but obliterated into almost fine dust. You get a 330-pound guy falling down 8 stairs without touching them, it's going to create quite some damage. Now the actual broken vertebrae weren't the major problem. The major problem ended up being bruising on the spinal cord itself, which I was told was a significant bruise. And spinal cord injuries, when you bruise your spinal cord, it takes forever to fix itself. In most cases, your spinal cord will not fix itself. The only thing, well, one of the great things, well, not great things, but one of my lucky things about the injury was it was incomplete rather than a complete. Now the difference being that an incomplete, your spinal cord is still intact. An incomplete is your spinal cord has been severed. And generally, if you're complete, your chances of recovery are very, very significantly limited to if you are incomplete. I hope you got that as well. If you have any questions and you'd like some more information, you can reach out. I'll get the information for you. So, Dr. Badawa I believe that's his name, in Sunnybrook did the surgery for me, and we ended up getting a titanium rod put in my neck to keep the spine aligned, as well as some titanium pieces to help with the vertebrae. I've got an actual picture of it, which I'll put on sometime when I upload some pictures, and just so you can see what was actually done in my neck. All right, so then I guess then I woke up in Sunnybrook after the surgery, and I remember waking up and not knowing where I was, and in a completely dark room. Like they had it was a room in ICU, and they had the curtains closed, so it was very dark in the room when I woke up. And at this point, I realized that movement wasn't happening. I was not able to move my arms or my legs or my head. And the angle of my head was way back, and I was looking, it felt like I was looking above my head rather than like above the top of my head, as opposed to looking straight up when you're lying down on your back. And that's because I was wearing a neck brace, and it's keeping my neck in alignment. I still have the neck brace. Here, I kept it as kind of a souvenir for the whole accident. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it, but maybe I'll wear it one Halloween, just for shits and giggles. So I woke up not being able to move, and I woke up alone, which probably wasn't the greatest thing. At the time, I was having it was even difficult for me to breathe, because one of the issues when your injury is high up in your C's is you're breathing in your diaphragm. And so I had reduced use of my diaphragm, and I still do to this day. But back then it was really significant, and it was, I guess, with the shock of not being able to move and not really remembering what had happened, was difficult, to say the least. Like, you don't know until you know, and the feeling of waking up like that is really bad. And even thinking about it now is extremely emotional, and that's why I didn't want to be doing this video, but I felt like I had to, because there's a lot of people who followed me, family and friends that aren't aware of everything. They're just aware of some things, and I thought that this was probably going to be something I would do early on, just as an explanation. I don't mean to be emotional here, but it is what it is. This is me, and this is who I am. So, and that's good enough. So, if you're watching this, know that I feel that this is good enough. I'm gonna fast forward a couple of days, because the first few days of being awake were completely at a loss. Don't remember, couldn't tell you. I do know that Diane didn't leave my side basically for, I'm going to say, the first 60 days. She was there at least 10 hours a day, just keeping me company, because I couldn't move. There was no movement in my body at all. And with that is, you've got other issues like your bowels and your bladder, and people who have spinal cord injuries know that it's not just the accident and the injury, but it's everything else that goes with it. It's not being able to hold your urine, or not being able to hold your poop. It just comes out when it wants to come out. And that's a very belittling feeling for a gentleman or a lady or anybody who's had regular bowels, and then goes to the fact that you need people to clean you up every time you go. Not the greatest feeling in the world, but again, it is what it is. You need people to help you when you've had an injury like this, and that's what they do. I don't know if I could do it, but there are a lot of people out there that's what they do. Yeah, I remember not being able to eat, having to be fed every meal. Then it got to be that I only wanted Diane or my sister, my sister Heidi, who was there, driving down from Kitchener almost daily, to make sure that I was going okay. Without those two, I don't know. I just don't know. I'm going to stop this now. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll continue this at another day, but not today.